better, more meaningful reports, whether it's for the selectmen or the finance committee or the TA, whatever.
That's a good line, Joe, that's good.
Really, I like that?
I like that one.
Well, Joe, I read through the document, we did get a copy of it, the
You did get a
identical
copy.
copy. And I was satisfied that, there's enough detail in here in terms of the scope of work associated with the cost of the consultant, so.
It's also going to help the schools as well as the town.
I think that, this is adequate, we're on the right path here. But you managed to raise a concern to me tonight, which has got to do with the hardware and again, getting the appropriate materials in here and a plan associated with that, so that we can get the software installed in a timely fashion, because you're not gonna go anywhere. I mean, the guy can do some planning here and he can, structure everything, but if you're gonna start to get this thing operational, it's gotta be installed, and I'm concerned with the progress that's been made from an IT point of view, and I really feel strongly that this ought to be on a dedicated server that it's accessed for accounting and those departments that are gonna feed the information, independent of everything else.
So, we have some time to do that, though. We have some time to look into that. I think we're going to decide it now.
As far as, we're gonna be talking about capital, later on this evening, so.
Yeah, where did it fall as far as prioritization?
My recollection, it came out of the priority 40 on 1 to
3, and it's been on 1 to 8, but as far as a economically feasible process, is it going to fit into this current fiscal year? We're going to be talking about it in October.
8. I feel reasonably confident that it's on the list that we'll have funding in October, unless there's something that really changes with regard to the amount of available funds that we have. I'm confident that we'll be able to fund our technology plan, including an amount of money for the server that Mr. Sassoni had referenced earlier in the evening. Is one that's included in the capital plan going forward.
And I concur with the chairman that if the prioritization of it has to change from a 3 to a 2 or a 1, it might be one of those.
I don't think there's a debate over it at all.
Right.
A piece of hardware, we've already invested in the software.
We invested in the software, we should have something to service it.
Is the reason it's a 3 is because you're thinking we would wait till April to get that, or? do you wait till- just 'cause the other things
give
we
me an
want to-
opportunity to address it. I mean, it's not unusual that it's a 3. Typically, health and safety issues rate number 1. Then we deal with deteriorated public facilities as number 2. And then equipment, just by the nature of how we define priorities, equipment always is behind building improvements. Conceivably, as a result of feedback I get from the board this evening and later with the members of the finance committee, we'll rearrange those priorities. By no means is anything cast in concrete this evening.
Any other questions for Joe?
Thank you, Joe. It's
Thank you
great
for the back
presentation.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, we have a joint meeting of the school committee. Where I saw some members walk in.
I think all here that is going to be here.
Great.
I think there's 4 of us.
See, 1, 2,
Maureen, Nicole,
Oh,
me.
Maureen's out back, okay, I see her. And we have the superintendent and the school business manager.
Right.
Do we want to pull up to, bring a chair up here and get closer, or?
We can move this table, we'll do that.
Just a minute.
Some chairs.
Prepare for the two table. We will.
The smaller chairs in the back, the smaller chairs. The smaller chairs will be easier to fit.
You can take care of mine, so.
Yeah, after the meeting, take care of that, Jack. You deliver the,
Now this means anything speaking over here needs to go to that microphone.
Okay, once we're set here.
The one facing the audience over there, so.
The superintendent of schools, David Troughton, requested
For the
that
tape,
we
yes,
get
but
together
not
in a
for
joint meeting
open meeting.
as a result of a letter that he received from Catherine Craven regarding priorities associated with our letters of intent to the new school board assistance bureau, whatever they're called these days. So with that, David, do you have a
I'm passing around a copy of the letter that I received from Catherine Craven back on July 16. As I think you all know, Catherine Craven is the executive director of the Mass School Building Authority. The MSBA is, or has been for the last year, working on new regulations for school building facilities. If you read this weekend's Boston Globe, there was an extensive, actually two articles, one in the main paper and one in the Northwest Weekly, that spoke to the issue and some of the new procedures under MSBA. At the same time that this letter was received by my office, a week earlier I was notified by MSBA that North Reading was selected out of a small number of school districts to have that auditing team of engineers and others to come out to North Reading to complete an assessment of all of our schools. So I believe, from what I understand, that approximately 18 school districts were selected to have this preliminary audit done. And what the assessment team did was to take a look at each of the three statement of interests which were submitted a year ago, both the school committee and board of selectmen approval. The statement of interests were submitted for the bachelor's school, the middle school, and the high school. The auditing team came out, they spent 2 days in North Reading, and they looked very closely at the statement of interest. They actually did an assessment of all 5 schools. And there are 2 tiers of assessments. Tier 1, or what they call Core 1, looked very closely at our middle school and our high school. And then Tier 2, or Core 2, looked at the bachelor's school, the hood school, and the little school. The point of looking at the hood school and the little school was to be sure that we were not crowding students into other spaces, particularly the bachelor and the middle school, with empty classrooms at the hood and little. They needed to verify that all of our indicators on the statement of interest were in fact correct. You remember when you signed off on the statement of interest, there were 8 different indicators that ranged from buildings in need of replacement due to safety issues, health concerns, immediate or long-term overcrowding, inability to provide programs, and for each one of the 3 statement of interests that were submitted, or was submitted, we indicated many of those indicators in all 3 of our schools. Of course, when the assessment team came out to evaluate the statement of interest on the bachelor's school, it was very difficult to complete that assessment because the bachelor's school, for all intents and purposes, is a new school. So they couldn't go back and without looking at paperwork, but there was nothing to visualize. That's why they did a Core 2 evaluation. On the middle school and high school, in the statement of interest, for example, we indicated certain safety and health issues, asbestos concerns, mold and mildew concerns, concerns about leakage, concerns about air quality. And so the engineers then took the statement of interest and all of the documents that we provided and went through them in great detail. And then they're going to evaluate that and come up with a rating system that will determine where North Reading's needs sit relative to all of the other statement of interests. And at this point, I believe it's well over 250 statement of interests that have been submitted with a deadline just last week at the end of July.
And I believe the article in the Globe said, I think it's 426 now. I think
Right.
was the total as of 11 o'clock on page deadline. So it's somewhere between 400 and 500 that were submitted.
You can actually go online to MSBA and you can see by school district which schools have been submitted for statement of interest and also the type of project, whether it's a boiler project, a roof replacement, or a new high school. And when you look at the surrounding communities around North Reading, you will see that a number of those communities have submitted statement of interest with a particular focus on high schools. So the competition is there, and I know that's what the Globe article was really trying to focus on this past weekend. Now comes this letter, and there's a new twist in this whole process. Prior to the receipt of this letter, I think that superintendents have been given the guidance from MSBA at a number of hearings and conferences that this was a very open process, that MSBA would take each statement of interest, would evaluate it based on engineering needs, and would move forward and make a selection over each year for the next 5 years on how to move forward. The guidelines say very specifically, communities should not find solutions to identified needs. Communities should not be going forward and doing designs. And we listened to those guidelines and stepped back from our process here in North Reading. You know that we did complete a feasibility study, actually 2 feasibility studies on our secondary schools. And of course, the Batchelder project was well underway. The Batchelder School project was approved and funded and constructed after the moratorium was put in place 4 years ago and was completed last year. Just as a side note, we have, that is several of us, the school committee and Mr. Messeri and others, Representative Jones and Senator Tarr have met at MSBA with Catherine Craven to speak and address specifically the issue of Batchelder School. Because under the present guidelines, if you read them closely, you might come away with a feeling that the Batchelder School will not qualify for reimbursement. And in fact, it was presented to the voters of North Reading without any hope of reimbursement. However, we made a case to MSBA that the Batchelder School project should be treated as a unique project. There are several other communities that are in the same boat. One that comes to mind is the town of Bedford. Bedford is in the process of a major $50 million plus reconstruction and addition to Bedford High School. And they intend to move forward and complete that project before any approvals from MSBA. So in many respects, that's similar to the Batchelder School. In our meeting with Catherine Craven, while we were not assured that the Batchelder School would be considered for reimbursement, there was, I think, from my standpoint, a fairly strong indication that MSBA would consider an application on the Batchelder School, hence the submission of a statement of interest. Now, in terms of the letter that you have a copy of, and the one that I received on July 16,